Food is fuel for your body, your mind, and definitely your sport. But let's face it, nutrition is confusing, and the expectations on girls and women to be thin and have a six-pack are exhausting. If you've ever been frustrated with your body, confused about nutrition, obsessed with eating healthy, or guilty when you don't, underate, overate, or overtrained, and overwhelmed with all the pressure, then this podcast is for you. Nutrition can be easy. You can take control of it, but it might start with letting go of control by asking for help and making a change. I'm Lindsay Elizabeth Cortez, sports dietitian and owner of Rise Up Nutrition, where I empower female athletes to overcome nutrition concerns and perform at their highest level, to stop being confused by all the mixed or harmful messages, and finally have confidence in your body as a fierce, fit, and fueled female athlete. Hi fans, welcome back to another episode. Our guest today is one of our own here at Rise Up Nutrition. This is her first time on the podcast, but she's been working with me for quite a few months now, working with our clients. Her name is Jenna Sranzl. So I'm going to read off her bio really quick, and then you guys are going to get to know her. And I'm super excited for you to get to know her and more of the Rise Up Nutrition team. So Jenna is, of course, a dietitian, a sports nutritionist, and she's also a marathon runner, doggy lover, and she's done a lot athletic-wise. She's done the New York City Marathon, Marine Corps Marathon, among quite a few others. In addition to being a part of the Rise Up Nutrition team and fueling female athletes, she is also the sports nutritionist for the New York Islanders in the NHL and AHL organization. She's worked with many collegiate and professional athletes, including in the PGA Tour, at IMG Academy, Penn State, University of Pennsylvania Athletics. She also works as a dietitian at an orthopedic sports medicine clinic. And so she's super, super busy, but surprisingly has so much time for our amazing clients here too. So Jenna, welcome to the podcast finally.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I've heard many of the podcasts. So to be in the, I was ready to say hot seat, but it's not really a hot seat. But it's exciting.
Yeah, not really a hot seat. It's just me and you, and we talk multiple times a week. So you just now get to share your message with the world.
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing that people from all over the world are listening, actually?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, not to put you on the spot.
Yes. No, it's very exciting because, you know, when you do this stuff and you get to a good place in your life with your journey, you just want to help others and get the word out that this whole world of being fierce, fit, and fueled is possible.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's talk about that and where you are in your career. Because like you said, it's like you get to a certain place and it's just like, I just want to share this message and I want to help people, which is why we love having you on our team. So where did your career with nutrition start? Or maybe even why? Like, why did you go down the path of studying nutrition and becoming a dietitian?
Yeah. So throughout high school, junior high school, I think most of y'all call it middle school, but we have junior high and high school. And
I had a junior high too.
Nobody else does.
Yeah, very few people have a junior high. I had a middle school, then a junior high, and then a high school.
Okay. So within junior high and high school, I definitely wanted to do meteorology. I was obsessed with the weather, and I only applied to schools that were kind of close, but had meteorology programs, which at that time, there's not very many. And so I had applied, got into Penn State, which had a great meteorology program. And so long story short, like I wanted to chase tornadoes and I wanted to like tell everybody the weather forecast. So
just curious, was this around the time that the Twister movie came out?
So I had the movie poster. Like when they were done showing it at the theater, I was like, what do you do with these posters? They're like, why would you want that? But, I loved it. And it's funny because like at school, people would be like, oh, Jenna, what's the weather today? Because like I had like a weather radio and I'd carry it around. But like, also at the same time, it's like, do you really want to know the weather? Or you just like, but do you want me to tell you? And most like, I would tell them the weather forecast for that day. So I picked up running while I was in college, and it was really an adjustment for me. So I was used to having all of my friends. I was used to having just like everything was sunshine and rainbows for me when I was in high school. And so I had friends, I had fun with cheering and track and dance team. And so a lot of activities, really good, close family. So leaving was really hard. And so I just fell in love with running. And even though I did it in high school, I was a sprinter. I was actually the anchor, but I hated running long distance. So we would cheat like the 3-mile long distance run. And then we would get caught because the girl who used to like be really good at running would tell on us. So I hated running in high school, but I did it because I was very social. And so I picked up running in college because it was something that was like mine, and it was something that made me feel better. And I just felt really connected to it. Like every day, it just like helped me get through feeling alone at college, because I was like, I don't know how to meet new people. And it just became something that I would just be doing all the time. And eventually I took Running 101 as my gym class in college. And the final exam was to do a 5K. And I did the 5K, and the track cross country coach was there and asked if I would be a walk-on. And I said, no, you guys don't run far enough. Which I thought they only ran a 5K every day, but they didn't. They like run an insane amount of miles. But I said, no, thank you. I regret that today, because that would have been a wonderful opportunity. But I was fast, but I just felt like that wasn't why I was running. I was running because it was the one thing I was good at. But in turn, doing that made me very cautious about my eating. And so back then, it was when not many universities had a sports dietitian. In the Big Ten, it was just really Chris Clark and maybe a few other universities that had them on staff. And so it was difficult to find the information for an individual who was getting upping their endurance and their mileage. So I would read Self Magazine or, Women's Health and Fitness Magazine. And I would get I would just read what everybody else was supposed to do and look like. And in turn came a lot of weight loss. And so we can get into the nitty gritty of that. But long story short, severely underweight, clinically diagnosed with anorexia. But I ended up getting my own sports dietitian. And when I was going through my recovery and with gaining weight, I won my first 5K that I did for deciding I was actually going to compete. Won my first 5K, and I was like, oh my gosh, if you eat right and you just not listen to all like your internal arguments with yourself about food, and you can do this really well. And so I just got the bug for it. Penn State was a great place to learn to do academics with nutrition. And that's kind of where it ended.
Yeah. So this is really important that as you started running, you weren't necessarily tied in with an athletic team at that time. So you were just running on your own. And without the proper resources of how to fuel your body as a runner, you were following all the messages from the magazines. And, we could now say today's day and age, like what we would see on social media, but so much of that is geared towards weight loss. I think you said like Women's Health Magazine, Shape Magazine. It's like every cover still, because not many people get magazines these days, but still they're out there, and every cover is like how to shed 10 pounds before summer or something like that. I actually just saw one the other day in the grocery store that was like, I think it was like 26 pounds before summer. And I was like, but that's not even possible. And it was very frustrating. You were reading that information while increasing your mileage and not necessarily having the support system or the education to tell you, hey, that's not right. As a runner, you need to fuel differently.
Yeah. And I think, at least today within social media, you can share ideas and share conversations, whereas then it was just something that was in my hands, and you didn't have these you had chat groups like on AOL or whatever, but they weren't geared towards like they are today, where you can just comment and there's a feed on Instagram or or on Facebook or whatever. It just was me and my own thoughts, and I had no one else to have these conversations with. And you don't know right from wrong, in the sense where I had weight loss, and some people told me it was okay, but of course my family was like, this is not, appropriate. So it was like, I don't even know what's right. I don't even know what's wrong, but my mind is telling me that I also feel like I'm very much in control and this is mine and I'm good at this. And I'm trying to adjust to change, but I just don't want this part of my life to change because of everything else that changed.
Yeah, running was your outlet for control.
Yeah. Yeah.
So who was it that brought it to your awareness that getting nutrition help or gaining weight would be helpful to you?
So, rewind, and this was a brief period, very brief period in high school when I was running track. I very briefly lost weight, and then it just kind of like went off the radar for a while. But my track coach called my mom, and he left a message on the answering machine, and I heard it, and I deleted it because I was like, I don't want anybody to know that I lost weight. And then I got scared, and then I kind of just like let it go. But then the first people to say things were, of course, like my mom and my dad. And it wasn't until one night when I woke up in the middle of the night, because when you're underfueled and you're very low body weight, you pee all the time. And I got up in the middle of the night to go pee, as I usually did many times. And my dad was in the bathroom standing there and he was crying. And he's just like, don't do this to your mom. And I was just, at that moment, you don't realize how many other people you hurt and you worry until you take a step back and are like, this whole it's very, I don't want to say selfish, but in a way, like you're not thinking about other people's concerns about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize like how many people you're affecting in your life and this is not just for underfueling. It definitely is for being underfueling and underweight because that's so scary for your loved ones, and they're kind of watching you hurt yourself, watching you starve yourself. But it's not just people underweight, nor is it people who have a visible weight issue or concern at all. It's just the mental and emotional stress that people's relationship with food or obsession with sport, we could even say. And what toll is that taking on your family members, on your friends? So that was very much a part of your story. And sounds like you were very kind of like in your own head up until that point when you saw your dad crying and realized, wait, this is more than just me.
Yeah. And you don't think about the fact that I didn't have a large group of friends in college. I didn't keep much of my friendships from when I went to so all the things that I loved and left when I went to college, I didn't even really concentrate or focus on keeping those old relationships. Like, because I was in a relationship with my eating issues and with my running, and like that's the only thing that existed. So, if there was a social event, if I needed to run or if I needed to, like, if it was going to interfere with how I was going to manage my food, I wasn't going to show up.
Yeah, you were in a relationship with food and exercise. And the worst part about that is that they don't love you back. They don't, they don't love you back. They don't comfort you. We might think they do temporarily, like, going out for that run is going to reduce my anxiety. But in the long run, like you're isolating yourself. You're isolating your network support system. So was it hard for you to go get help? You started working with a dietitian.
You know what? I was very fortunate to find myself in a very honest spot. Like, this is upsetting. My family is my, like, everything. And so my mom is my best friend. And the feeling of a child never wants to really disappoint their parents. Right. So it was almost just like, they've given me so much in my life. And I felt like I need to do this. And I know they want what's best for me. And I know that really this is honestly best for myself. So I had the combination of a sports dietitian and a psychologist to get myself back on track. And that was kind of we're going to do this. And unfortunately back then, insurance didn't cover squat. So it was an expense for my parents, to invest in the sports dietitian part of it, but it was necessary in order to get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was the hardest part of that experience for you?
My first few sessions with my sports dietitian, I'm friends with now. She called me out on everything, and I didn't like her. And my mom remembers that. She remembers me saying, like, I don't want to work with her, because I would do my food logs and I bring them to her, and I would make like a turkey sandwich. And she'd be like, did you use 45 calorie bread or did you use real bread? And I'm like, 45 calorie bread. And so she knew it. She knew everything, and so I didn't like that, because she'd catch me.
She caught you.
She was good at it.
She was a great dietitian.
And so that didn't sit well with me. And I was looking for someone who I could get away with things with, right? But she was who my parents were sticking with, and that is who I stuck with. And in turn, it's just like, you just trust the process. Okay, well, if I'm stuck in this, then I'm just going to have to try and put myself first and do this and trust in the process that she's giving me. And it just kind of clicked. And I think at first, with the whole psychology end of it, you sometimes don't, it's almost like you go and you think you're going to get like an exact answer, but we would talk about anything and everything. And I just realized that just by talking to somebody other than my own head, or it was nice to get out whatever was going on in my mind. And I just felt like I became less anxious, less bottled up. And that really did help.
Yeah. And this is why having you work with our clients is so incredible, because you've been through personally what so many of our clients have or are going through, with making a big change that's outside of their comfort zone, with having their families involved and like that relationship and or tension that it might be causing, with having somebody call you out, because that's what me and you do now to our clients, is call them out. Like, we're not going to let them get by with doing this stuff, and we're here to help them. And so we call them out on these same things. And you've been there, and you know that it's uncomfortable, but also that it works, that, you know what, I trusted in the process, and look where it got me, which I guess we could talk about next. I read your bio. Obviously, not only are you a dietitian, but you still run, and you're a great runner. It's a lifelong passion of yours. You've completed so many marathons. So what were some of the benefits that you saw of working with a dietitian? And of course, for you, necessary weight gain was involved in that. What were the immediate benefits?
Yeah. So when I first was clinically diagnosed with anorexia, my family doc was like, no running. And because we were worried about me, like, I would run at 2:00 in the afternoon in the summer for like 2 hours, or from noon to 12, which is like
the hottest time of day.
Right. And if I'm like this tiny, it's a concern.
Yeah. Somebody's thinking, yeah, you're going to pass out on the road.
Right. So I said, I will only eat if I can run, which you often hear, because we say like, it's not about running, but it also is a very important element of the whole process of getting to where you are. But so we made an agreement that I would run for nothing more than 4 miles. So at first I asked for 7. They said no, 4. So I was like, okay. So technically I like made it 5, because like no one was really checking. So I would call my mom before I went to work. She was a nurse. She was working full time. I call her. But a side note, I came home for a semester to just initiate like my whole process with my sports dietitian and my psychologist. So like I had gone to transfer for a semester. So I would call my mom, run, call her when I get back. But at the same time, I was doing the right things with my dietitian. And every other week when I go, we would put myself on the scale and do also like a body comp. And I was gaining weight, but I also was like, I was actually becoming a better runner. And it was also kind of difficult at the time, because like, I just wanted to like explode and just like take off and run longer distances. But I also knew that would also create weight loss potentially again. And so, and I needed to get a period, and I needed to, just get on the right track. And it wasn't until 2 years later because fast forward into my life, when I put the weight on, I started running a lot more higher mileage than I was before. And my best friend in college, for my birthday, she got How to Run Your First Marathon. She gave me the book and she put it on my desk. And she's like, you already run like a marathon every day. So like, why don't you do it like for real? And it scared me because I was like, this is a commitment. It's a different kind of commitment, meaning like training for a marathon means you have to have discipline and you have to have rest days and you have to, run really far and then you have to scale back. And so to me, it was like, oh man, can I do this? It was a new challenge.
Not because of the distance, but almost more because of the respecting the process and taking rest days or running less even.
Mm-hmm. That was a struggle. That was a huge struggle. But you know what? Like, it was a humbling experience. And I just caught the runner bug for the marathon bug after that. And it just, I felt like I think it was interesting because my best friend has been my best friend since I was like 6 years old. And I think she knew for myself too that I was in a good place. Like I was ready for it and I wasn't going to use it in means of like weight loss, or because oftentimes when you think of marathon training or such, you'll be like, oh, maybe I'll lose weight out of this. But like, I think she knew and trusted too that like I was ready for it.
Yeah. And it's something that after making all those changes and addressing your nutrition, it's like, okay, well, now that I'm in a good place, how can I move forward with my life and using nutrition to help you continue to be a better runner? So that's like an exciting transition. But I hear what you're saying, to backtrack just a bit, about like when you started working with your dietitian and you started feeling better, then you were eager to like, okay, so let me run further. And we see that a lot with our clients, right? Like after working together for 4 weeks, they're like, so I feel better, so I can push harder now, right? And we're like, oh, no. We're like, pump the brakes. Like, super glad that you're feeling better. And this is just the beginning. But like, just like you've trusted in us for 4 weeks, you need to continue trusting in us to know what like feeling your best feels. Right? We don't want you to feel better. We want you to feel your best all the time. And so it's continuing to trust in that, still kind of reining them in, pumping the brakes just a little bit. I hate to say that because obviously as sports dietitians, like, but that's the thing we want you guys to remember, that as sports dietitian, we care about your sport. We're athletes ourselves. We care about that and about your participation, your longevity in it, your success in it, your enjoyment of it. Like we want all of that for you. So, and this isn't the case for all of our clients, but there are a few that's like, we do have to pump the brakes with how much we're training, when we're training. For some, it's a complete stop. And for all, regardless, it is learning those boundaries of rest, recovery days. I mean, because that's important as an athlete, even if you don't have to be like held back for any medical reasons, but like, well, you're supposed to have rest and recovery days, or you're supposed to have training cycles. You're on season, off season. You're training for a marathon, and then you're supposed to stop training for a marathon when you don't have one coming up, right? And so learning how to incorporate those rest and recovery days and self-care days are so important for all of our clients.
And I think too, when you talk about the rest day, I think the fear was, one day somebody asked me, what are my hobbies? And I was like, running. And they're like, well, give me a hobby other than running. And I couldn't answer the question because I'm Jenna the runner. That's my identity and that's who I am. And that rest day or that time away, like after the marathon's over, it's almost like, who am I? Like, who am I?
And that's a scary place to be for a lot of reasons. Like the one obvious reason is because if you are an athlete at some point in your life, you will get injured. And it might be at no fault of your own, beside like, I don't know, rolling an ankle, like whatever, you're going to get injured and you're going to have to take time away from running, or maybe time away from your team or time away from that club. And then who are you? Right. And it's not just injury. It's so many different things in life, but knowing who you are without your sport, because you're still somebody of value. You're still somebody of worth. And so having hobbies outside of your sport is incredibly important, which, okay, side story. Can I share it? Is it okay if I share one of our hobbies that we have in common and how we?
Yeah.
This is so goofy, but I just think it's hilarious. When I was interviewing for the position at Rise Up Nutrition of sports dietitian and nutrition coach, somehow Jenna and I stumbled upon the crazy fact that we both share the hobby of doing decoupage, and notably with oyster shells. We both think oyster shells are really beautiful, and never have I met another person in this world who does painting and decoupage of oyster shells. So, we like that about ourselves.
And here's this one. I didn't quite decoupage, but I painted this. This one's like on my dining room table.
I love it
because I got all these shells at the beach, and I was like, what? And then I was searching like, what do you do with shells? And then that's when I was like, oh, you could decoupage these. And now it's just like, so anytime I find because you can decoupage with napkins. Different types of napkins. Like the amount of napkins I have now, decor napkins, is I have a actual like three drawers full of different types of napkins. But I will say what I love about that, it's a hobby now. It's a hobby, and I have a hobby. It's nice.
Yes, you are Jenna the runner, Jenna the dietitian, Jenna the decoupage artist. Mm-hmm. There's so much more to you, right, than just being a runner and then just that identity. And that's so important for all of us throughout every stage in our life to find, and we have to find it. It doesn't come easily.
Yeah.
We have to find it. We have to work for it.
And I think when you are very controlled, it's hard to tell yourself to detach from something, right? So, or just for fear of having to try something else and not knowing if you're I was good at controlling my food. I was good at being controlled with my running, never ran any less than I needed to. I always ran, I would time it always and make sure that I never skipped a day. And so to try something else and potentially not be good at it is a little scary because I was so used to being good at this part of my life.
Yeah, scary for sure. And I was kind of thinking for our listeners, where are you at now with nutrition? Because, this was a while ago. You had to, but you've mentioned, and I know this, I know where you're at now with nutrition, but for our listeners, you mentioned being obsessive about it and then getting help with a dietitian, being on that path of intentional weight gain, which was the right thing for you. But now, what's your relationship with food now? What's your day-to-day fueling like?
Yeah. So my relationship now with food is much better. I was just telling this to one of our clients yesterday, because we always say that their food will be here tomorrow. Right. And so I used to crush a peanut M&M and smell it because I was I don't know. I was just this fear of eating things, and then it just becomes a point where you're just first of all, this is very silly that I'm doing this. And just to, enjoy it. Don't feel like you can't have something. And so I started putting these foods in my house, and I have, Reese's peanut butter cups in a big jar. I have loads of Mike and Ike's and Runs, and all of my foods that I used to be if I have one, I'm going to have a lot because I deprived myself for so long. Because I was I can't have that stuff. Weak people eat sugar and weak people, eat ice cream. And then when you have it, it's what was I thinking? It's very silly. Ice cream's very good.
Very, very good.
So I allowed myself to just have things out and around all the time, which I think also just makes me have a healthy relationship with knowing that if I wanted it's here, and if not, I can have it tomorrow. Because I went from extreme severe restriction to then when I was gaining weight, sometimes I just felt, at times I did feel out of control because you are just also in that feeling of, I need to put on weight, but I also, your hunger fullness cues are so out of whack.
Yeah, out of whack. And sometimes people get to this point of feeling starving or ravished. It's almost however many years that you did under fuel, catches up to you. And it's all trying to make a comeback at once.
Yeah. And so that was, an up and down for a little while, but today I'm more plant-based. So I don't consume pork, red meat. And that's just because I used to run by these cows every day and I really like them and they come to the fence. And then one day Rocky, the farmer, I was where are they? And he's well, they're, yeah. So I ran home and I cried. And then I remember my mom yelling at me because I was in the shower too long crying. And she's you're going to waste all the hot water. And so I got out and I was I'm not doing this anymore. So my reasons are not for, they're just my own. And I preach whatever kind of diets, what other people are comfortable with, but I am more so plant-based, and that's just because of my experience. But I will say the hardest part for me getting back to quote unquote like a better place was to let go of always having to have something healthy at every single meal. Like always having to have a lot of vegetables or always filling up with a salad first, or just by notion, like the idea of having a sandwich at lunch is like, people don't eat sandwiches at lunch. Women eat salads at lunch. And so it was like retraining myself to remember that all foods fit and that I do have permission to do this. I'm an athlete. I need this stuff to sustain, and reminding myself of how good that felt when I first started eating to perform. Like you just don't want to ever go backwards. So last night it was late and I was after the chat and I had it was like after 9, who cares? My body doesn't know what time it is. I had 2 of my vegan hot dogs and potato chips. And I was like, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. I remember probably in the first week that I hired you, you shared something about like, oh yeah, last night I had like 8 slices of cheese squished between 4 slices of white bread. I think it was a good dinner. And I was like, yes. And this is why I have you on my team as dietitian, because there's some people might be thinking like, what? But it's like, yeah, you just needed to fuel your body and that works. You got your carbs, your proteins, your fat, and it works. And we need to move on with life. And there's no, oh, I can only have 1 slice or 2 slices of cheese. It's no, I listened to my hunger and I ate what sounded good and I made whatever was convenient and readily available in the house. And it didn't matter what time it was. And I made it work. Right. And I think that's one of the things that I love about you and what you bring to our clients is, you know, it doesn't matter if you're plant-based or if you eat red meat. It doesn't matter if you are a runner or quite frankly, not even an athlete. It's like, how can we make this work for you where eating is easy? I think that you found a way, Jenna, to make eating very easy in your life, which I kind of want to shift gears too. You've made eating very easy, even though you've also made a career out of it, which I think is so interesting because you switched to studying nutrition while you were kind of working with a dietitian and going through that. Was that kind of difficult or was that helpful for you?
I think it was helpful. Well, first I will say like, I wasn't sure if it was me being like, if I become a dietitian, I could still potentially, no one would catch me because they think I'm this professional and I could, you know, I could secretly do this and think like nobody would think she's anorexic because like she's a dietitian and she knows the right things. But there comes a point where just like, you're just too smart for that. Like you end up learning everything with science and the whole part about metabolism and digestion and all that stuff that you're just like, I can't cheat it. Like I know too much now.
Yeah. And I bring this up because that is the story of a lot of people, not just in dietetics, but the health field of sometimes those disordered thoughts are what get us into the field. And it is a little bit of like, well, I want to control it. I want to know everything. I want to control it. Maybe even I do want to cheat that system almost like you said. But the power of it is that if you learn the science, which is what we teach our clients to, we teach our clients the science. We're not tricking them into anything. When you learn the science of nutrition, then you know that a carb is a carb, whether it's coming from gummy bears or sweet potato. A carb is a carb if it's coming from chocolate cake or the carbs that are in kale. Like when you kind of break it down to that science and you really understand it, then you're like, it can really help you. I think learning the science behind nutrition, at first, it can be difficult or more triggering to some people. But if you go through like a whole degree and then, of course, a career, it can be helpful. And that might not be the case for everybody because I've definitely know people whose eating disorders have worsened depending on what like environment they're in. I think it helped you to go into the sports environment because I do know some dietitians who have gone into like, I don't know, then working in weight loss clinics and like that's just going to perpetuate a problem, you know. So that can be, so it's not true for everybody. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like a little blanket statement for our listeners here is like, if you have an eating issue, like get help. Don't just decide to get a degree in it. Get actual professional help, which was your first step anyways.
Yeah. And I will say I wasn't ready to work with individuals with disordered eating disorders, probably like even 5 years ago, because it just wasn't in a space where like, I felt like I could really help that person. One, I need to make the selfish decision of, is my mental state ready for me to help? Because I can help. I could help. But do I know that every day I can handle it? And, having that experience with more so the collegiate athletes for the past 3 years I had was really that moment where I was like, you know what, I'm way beyond this now. And I just want to help. And I didn't have any of those thoughts anymore of wishing I was back there or restriction. It was all just like, can you just eat the bread?
Yeah. Yeah. We have to be, myself, Jenna, Marie, the other dietitian on our team, we have to be so solid, and we are. I think we're an amazing team. Like, there is not a hint of any disordered thoughts in our brains at this moment, even though we've been in your shoes before, all of us on some level. And in it, because we all, and Marie's episode, if you're hearing me drop her name, she's the other sports dietitian. I believe she was episode number 6. I'll include her in the show notes, but she was a very high level gymnast, NCAA for Alabama, and went to Olympic Training Center. I was a D1 athlete. And like, we all have these different things of body image, periods, weight loss. For me, I actually even struggled with weight gain, purging, restriction, compensation. Like, we've all been there. We've been in your shoes. And this is what's so empowering. You don't have to be that way. You can find a way out. And myself, Jenna, and Marie can get you there because we found that way out for ourselves. And we know the path. We've helped so many clients do it. And we are so solid in that. Like I said, like, let's throw together 7 pieces of cheese and 4 slices of white bread and call it a day, like, without any doubts, and actually being like, damn, that was really good. I'm going to make that again tomorrow night, or, being able to, avoid the scale and not care about that at all, or also step on the scale and be like, cool, whatever, I'm ready to walk away now, and be totally okay with that. Or I don't know, there's just so many examples of, I think Marie the other day shared like, well, I ate lunch and then my husband came home with a cheeseburger and a milkshake. So I ate that too. And like, great, and I'm saying this not to like brag about eating cheeseburgers and milkshakes and being okay with that, but more so of, we're practicing what we preach of accepting food, accepting our bodies, making all foods fit. And am I bragging too much? Are we just like a powerhouse team?
I think so. Because when you were talking about the scale, I was like, I get on it sometimes and like, okay, it's not a big deal. And I think too, we're in such a good place. And to preface, like, we're not trying to scare people by saying like, you're going to eat 8 slices of cheese on white bread and then you're going to eat 2 lunches the next day. But like, it's the notion that like, life doesn't go as planned and rigid as you might want to expect it to be. And so this just allows you to lose that part of yourself. It just, that mental, the amount of time you take every single day to focus on food, where just like the approach is so much more effortless, and to allow yourself to enjoy more things in your life.
100%. Exactly. We're making it easy and seeing more to us. Again, going back to like that identity of being more than a runner, like having life be more fulfilling and more fun. And absolutely. And by the way, we do eat kale too, people. We do.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes.
I just had salmon and chickpeas and cucumber for lunch. Like, we variety, balance, moderation, it's all important.
Yes. I should say, with my hot dogs last night, I did have, I threw in a steamer bag of frozen spinach, and I had that as well. So like, I just made sure to round out my day with some fiber. So yes.
I love it. I know.
Yeah.
So here's just kind of like a fun question for you, putting you on the spot with your boss, but what's your favorite part about the job?
Oh, what is my favorite part about the job? You know what? I think yesterday, so for those of you, so we have like this weekly group call where everybody gets to come on, and Lindsay was away, so I covered the group call, and it was just one of those moments to see all the girls just like having a good time and seeing this lighter side of somebody who has struggled for so long, and to see like when we work with these clients, through the computer screen, like there's so much hope that we have for them, because you see them progressing and you see their minds change and their emotions. And it's just across the board, I'm seeing these girls light up and laugh. And that's really such a rewarding thing, because all you want is these girls to just fly and like be so happy.
Yeah. So seeing their transformation, seeing their
transformation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, I should have clarified this in the beginning of the podcast, just for our listeners. Here at Rise Up Nutrition, we do have a few different programs and services and ways that we can help clients. Jenna is one of our nutrition coaches, specifically in what's called the Female Athlete System of Transformation, which is our program to help female athletes overcome disordered eating and use food as fuel to perform their best and fly. Just as we just said, like be happier, like be healthier, be stronger, be faster, reach their goals, and not have any of these issues, including the ones that Jenna's experienced in the past of being underweight or diagnosed anorexia or being super obsessive about food, and just be a lot more comfortable with eating and with themselves. So that's Jenna and myself are both nutrition coaches in that program specifically. And yeah, we see that transformation. It's called the Female Athlete System of Transformation for a reason, because you see that and it's super exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're loving the job, of course. We're going to keep you around for a while.
I'm loving it. Yes. Great. It's good, because in my other life of working with, professional hockey players, it's such a, I guess sometimes I was so used to just being the female. And so it's for me nice to have this girl power and this empowerment that, I'm surrounded by on a daily basis. And it's just nice to have.
It is. And this, you and me are similar in this regard. Before starting this business, for a brief period of time, I worked with an all male population. Of course, you're in the National Hockey League, all male population. And we see that a lot as sports dietitians. I shouldn't say that there's not necessarily like this. It's just where the jobs are. I think there's a few more jobs for some of the male organizations. There's tons of female athletes at the collegiate level. Unfortunately, female professional sports don't have many full-time dietitians. So we're working in these all male populations, even though that's, I think for both of us, like in our heart, it's like, well, we want to work with female athletes. And so obviously that's what this is a female athlete nutrition specialty here. And it is so empowering to be on the group calls with our clients. And it is awesome when women get together and actually talk about these things, but not just talk about them, like improve them. Because, us women, we can talk. So it's not about just talking or complaining or going in circles, but actually like all improving together. And there's so much power in that. It's thrilling.
Yeah, it's not an intimidating space. It's not a space where you feel like you would need to compete with somebody. It is just like everybody is someone else's cheerleader. Like everybody just wants to get better. And so that's what's really, we celebrate the wins and it's all just exciting.
Awesome. So like I said, we are absolutely going to keep you around. Jenna, thank you so much for sharing your story with others. And again, listeners, if you're interested in this program or services, interested in working with me or interested in working with Jenna, you can bypass me if you want to. And you can work with Jenna, but still give me a call, head to our website, give me a call, and I can let you know how you could work with Jenna through our programs and services. Jenna, before I let you go, we're going to do some rapid fire questions. Okay.
Go for it. Okay. All
right. One food that you could eat every single day for the rest of your life and never get sick of it.
Oh gosh, and never get sick of it.
Never get sick of it.
So that would have to be McDonald's hash browns.
The breakfast hash browns?
Yeah. I could be full and ready to burst at the seams, but if you gave me that, I would still eat it.
Love it. I love it. Amazing. So what's Jenna, another rapid fire question. What's your favorite sport to participate in? I'm guessing running. Is it running?
Yeah, but it's not a sport, but I just bought, and I get to pick it up on Saturday, a paddle board. So I got a stand-up yoga paddle board. And so I'm hoping this summer I can take it out on the water. And the reason why I got a yoga one, I could do yoga on it, but also I'm going to put my dog on it. So she got a life vest, and maybe that will be my new sport. So I'm hoping it is.
Oh, I loved it. When I lived on the beach for about 4 years, I paddleboarded weekly, sometimes daily. So I would call that, yeah. And actually there are paddleboarding competitions. So it can be a sport. I almost signed up for one. I didn't do it, but I almost did.
Oh.
But you don't have to turn it into a sport.
Yeah, I tried to be competitive the very first time I did it, and I fell in the water right away. I was trying to beat everybody.
Yeah. You don't have to turn it into a sport. You can turn it into just you and your dog having a good time together. What about your favorite spectator sport?
That's hockey. Yeah.
So good. Yeah, it makes sense because you get to watch a lot of it. All right. Final question, Jenna. If there's a female athlete out there that you really admire or find inspirational that you want to give a shout out to, this can be a professional athlete or just somebody in your life, then go for it. Who would that be and why?
Man, I feel like that changes during my whole entire life based on either also where we are in current events. And so then it was the U.S. women's national soccer team, before. And honestly, this is going to sound really cheesy and I'm not just making this up, but right now, the girls in our program.
I know.
Honestly,
they're inspiring.
Exactly.
That's what I always think too. I'm yeah, there's, and I know many professional athletes and they certainly are inspiring, but I'm but these clients that we work with, they're the most inspirational and fierce, fit and fueled female athletes that I know. They really are. And they're working hard. They're not giving up on themselves. They believe in themselves. They're committed and they do it. So shout out to all you girls. Thank you so much again, Jenna, for joining on the Female Athlete Nutrition Podcast. And again, I'll include links below if you are interested in getting in touch with either myself or Jenna, learning more about how we can help you with your nutrition, become fierce, fit, and fueled, be a part of our amazing girl power group that we were talking about. We can't wait to talk to you. Thank you again, Jenna.
Thank you.
I really hope you enjoyed that episode and thanks for listening. But before I let you go, I have free resources that you can have access to right away, right now, so that you can start fueling your body as a fierce, fit, and fueled female athlete. First, I have your Red S recovery race. If you've ever wondered if you might be struggling with Red S, curious to learn more, or know you have Red S and are looking to recover fast, then you can head to www.riseupnutritionrun.com/RedS and download the Red S Recovery Race. See how you place and figure out the next steps to recovery. Plus, while there, I have a few other great resources for you, including 3 nutrition secrets that every elite athlete swears by, and access to our private Facebook community, Female Athlete Nutrition. So again, to gain access to all of this, head to riseupnutritionrun.com/RedS. That's /REDS. And you can gain access and get the help you need fast. Too many girls and women and female athletes struggle with nutrition, but you don't have to any longer. Become fierce, fit, and fueled. Links in the show notes, and I'll see you next time.